In the world above the clouds, where the air shimmered with gold and the scent of burning incense, Lady Casara lived in a realm untouched by time. Every morning, light poured through crystal towers, and the hum of distant machinery sang beneath the marble floors. Her life, like the city around her, was a masterpiece of control, symmetry, and purpose. She had everything a person could ever desire: wealth, beauty, and a name that commanded respect among the highest tiers of imperial nobility. And yet, there was a silence she could not ignore. A silence that followed her through every banquet, every ritual, every carefully scripted smile. They said perfection was the reward of obedience, that to serve the emperor was to find peace in purpose. But what happens when perfection begins to feel hollow? When devotion becomes a mask you can't remove, even when you're alone? Lady Casara had begun to feel it. The slow, creeping realization that the world she lived in might not be as flawless as it seemed, that beneath the glimmering beauty of the upper spires, something was rotting. It started with the dreams, vivid, burning visions of another life, one she didn't remember living. She would wake with her heart racing, her hands trembling, her mind whispering names she didn't recognize. Sometimes, she saw faces she knew she should not know. But when she tried to speak of them, her attendants would smile, their eyes glazed with gentle disinterest. They told her she was tired, that the light of the emperor sometimes overwhelmed those blessed by his radiance, and for a time, she believed them, until the day of the descent. It was supposed to be a ceremonial journey, one of the rare visits to the lower levels of the hive. She was to oversee a purification ritual, a simple act of grace performed for the workers below, a way to remind them that the emperor's gaze still reached even the darkest corners. The shuttle ride was smooth at first. The higher they descended, the dimmer the light became, until the endless brightness of the upper towers faded into the murk of artificial night. Casara pressed her hand to the glass, watching the transition from gleaming perfection to shadowed decay. Below, she saw lives lived in perpetual dusk, people moving through corridors lit by the dull orange glow of broken lumen strips, children with soot-stained faces, workers with hollow eyes that didn't look away when they saw her, that didn't bow, that stared back, and something inside her cracked. It wasn't pity. It wasn't fear, it was recognition, as if, for a single breath, she remembered being one of them. The moment passed, but the feeling didn't. When the shuttle landed, and the servants prepared the ritual space, Casara found herself walking away, drawn by something she couldn't name. She wandered through corridors she wasn't supposed to see, down where the walls sweated rust, where every surface hummed with the pulse of ancient machines. And in that darkness, she found something she had never expected: a mirror, old, cracked and half covered in grime. She wiped the surface, and for a moment, she didn't recognize the reflection. It was her face, but not her. Her eyes were different, too alive, too aware. And behind her reflection, she thought she saw movement. When she turned, there was nothing, only the low, endless thrum of the hive, the sound of a world that never slept. But in that instant, she knew something had changed, that the life she had known, the perfect, polished illusion, was already beginning to unravel. Because once you see the cracks in perfection, you can never unsee them. When Lady Casara returned to the upper spires, nothing looked the same anymore. The corridors still gleamed with sacred gold. The air still smelled of incense and sterilized purity, but every sound, every whisper felt different, heavier, distant, unreal. It was as though she had left part of herself in the depths below and brought something else back with her. She tried to bury it, to return to the rhythm of her life. Morning prayers, public appearances, endless hours of lessons, meetings, and the rituals that kept her world moving like clockwork. But in her mind, that reflection lingered, the one that didn't quite belong to her. At first, she told herself it was fatigue, then perhaps a symptom of isolation. But the more she tried to forget, the clearer it became. Every time she passed a mirror, she hesitated, waiting to see if her reflection would blink out of sync. And sometimes, it did. She would blink and the reflection wouldn't. It would just stare back unblinking, patient, as though waiting for her to remember something. The servants began to notice her restlessness. They whispered in corridors when they thought she couldn't hear. Rumors spread. Quiet. Poisonous ones. That Lady Casara had been touched by the depths. No one ever said it aloud. Of course, not in the Emperor's light, but she could feel it. The glances, the fear, as if she were carrying a sickness no one dared to name. Days turned into weeks. Her dreams returned, sharper, louder. She saw visions of colossal machines turning in darkness, voices chanting in languages she didn't understand, and over it all, one voice, her own, whispering from the shadows, "You don't belong here." Sometimes, she would wake standing in the middle of her chamber, her hands stained with soot, her lungs heavy with the stench of smoke and oil. No one could explain how, and she stopped trying to ask. One night, unable to sleep, she stood by her window, gazing down through the endless layers of the city. From this height, the lower levels were invisible. Only a soft glow of red haze marked their existence, like an open wound beneath a perfect body. That's when she heard it, faint, almost like static, a voice calling her name. She froze. The sound came not from the hall, but from her personal comm terminal. No one was supposed to have access to that frequency. It was restricted to high officials and authorized transmitters. "Who is this?" she demanded, her voice trembling. For a moment, only static answered. Then, through the distortion, "You've seen it, haven't you?" Her heart stopped. Seen what? The truth beneath the light. Before she could respond, the signal cut. The screen went black, but the echo of that voice stayed, looping in her mind like a whisper from another world. The next day, Casara went through her routine as if nothing had happened. But inside, she was already breaking protocol. She began searching through the archives, quietly, cautiously, tracing energy records, maintenance logs, restricted files from the lower sectors. She found fragments, deleted transmissions, erased reports, each one pointing to the same location, Sector N47. The exact place she had wandered into during her descent. Her instincts told her to stop. Her upbringing screamed obedience, but curiosity, or perhaps destiny, had already taken hold. That night, she disguised herself in a worker's cloak, left her private quarters, and boarded a maintenance transport heading down. No guards, no attendants, just her, and the hum of the descent. As the light of the upper levels faded, a strange calm settled over her. For the first time in her life, she wasn't being watched. There were no expectations. No rehearsed gestures, no polished words, only the raw, heavy air of the real world, thick with oil and smoke. She didn't know it yet. But this journey wasn't a rebellion, it was a return to a truth buried so deep beneath perfection that the Imperium itself had forgotten it ever existed. When the doors opened, the heat hit her like a living thing. She stepped into a world of shadow and fire, where machines groaned like dying gods, and humanity survived not by grace, but by grit. And there, among the noise and smoke, she felt it again, that same presence she had seen in the mirror. This time, it wasn't a reflection. It was waiting for her. The air in Sector N47 was thick enough to taste. Metal, rust, and oil clinging to every breath. Lady Casara pulled her hood tighter, her once silken robe now heavy with grime. The echo of industry filled every corridor, engines pulsing like mechanical hearts, the sound of tools biting metal, the faint hum of something ancient just beyond hearing. No one looked at her. Down here, no one cared about bloodlines or titles. They were too busy surviving. For the first time, she walked unseen. And strangely, it felt freeing. She moved through the narrow passageways, following half-remembered routes from the forbidden archive maps. Every turn took her deeper, closer to the pulse she'd been hearing in her dream, that slow, rhythmic beat beneath all the noise. As she descended a flight of stairs lit only by flickering lumen strips, she noticed a mark on the wall, a symbol etched in soot, a broken halo surrounding an eye. Something about it pulled at her memory. She touched it. The metal beneath her fingers vibrated faintly, like the surface of a living thing. That's when the voice came again, clearer this time, closer, You shouldn't have come here. She spun around, heart racing. A figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked, face hidden by a respirator mask. Who are you? She demanded. The stranger tilted their head. Someone who remembers what you were before you became her. Her breath caught. What do you mean? You don't remember, do you? The palace erased it well, but some memories survive. In the cracks. The voice was soft but carried an unsettling calm, like a priest reciting a familiar prayer. He reached into his cloak and pulled out a small shard of glass. Not a weapon. A fragment of a mirror. Look, Casara hesitated. Then she took it. And for the second time, her world broke. In the shard's reflection, she saw herself, but dressed in the rags of a laborer, her face streaked with soot and oil. Her hands were calloused, her eyes fierce, alive. Behind her, not marble walls, but rows of workers, machines, and fire. She dropped the shard. It shattered, and the image vanished. No, she whispered. That can't be real. It was, the stranger said. Before they remade you. Before they turned rebellion into obedience. Her heart pounded. Why are you showing me this? Because the Emperor's light doesn't reach this far down anymore. But his shadow does, and it remembers. The air trembled. Somewhere above them, machinery groaned, a sound that felt almost like a warning. Casara stumbled back, struggling to breathe. Her mind was splitting between two realities. The life she knew, and the one she'd just seen. One of privilege and beauty, one of sweat and survival, and in the center of both, her. You were part of something greater, the stranger said. Something they feared. So they buried you in silk and silence. She wanted to deny it, to call him a liar. But deep inside, the truth was already there, waiting. Every uneasy dream, every haunting reflection, it had all been leading here. What do you want from me? She asked finally. Not me, the stranger said. They do. He gestured toward the far end of the corridor, where a massive door stood, sealed with ancient locks. Faint light spilled from its edges, pulsing in rhythm with the heartbeat of the hive. Casara felt drawn to it. The closer she stepped, the stronger the hum became, not sound but vibration, deep enough to shake her bones. She placed her palm against the surface. The door was warm, alive, and as she touched it, images flooded her mind and flashes of another time, a riot. Flames, her voice, shouting commands to hundreds of workers, a promise made in the dark. We will be seen. Then, pain, light, and silence. She collapsed to her knees, gasping. The stranger knelt beside her. Now you understand. They erased the revolution, but not its echo. You were its heart, Lady Casara, before they rewrote your soul. Her hands trembled. If that's true, then who am I now? The stranger's eyes gleamed behind the mask. The question isn't who you are. It's whether you're ready to remember the rest. The door hissed, ancient locks releasing one by one, each click echoing through the corridor like the tolling of a bell. Light spilled out, red, pulsating, alive. And from within, the machine's whisper grew louder, rising into a voice that was neither human nor divine. Welcome home. The red light flooded around her. Soft at first, then blinding. Lady Casara shielded her eyes, but the glow wasn't just light. It was memory. Images burned through her vision, faster than she could process. Fragments of lives she had lived, faces she had known, promises she had made and broken. The door closed behind her with a hiss. She was inside. The chamber was vast, a cathedral made of iron and smoke. Towering machines stretched into the darkness above, their shapes half lost in the haze. Cables hung like veins, sparks drifted through the air like dying stars. And in the center, a throne, not of gold, not of marble, but of metal, rust, and circuitry. It pulsed with energy, and as Casara stepped closer, she realized it wasn't a throne at all. It was a body, a machine, vast, humanoid, ancient, its surface engraved with scripture that had long since faded. Somewhere inside it, something moved, a heart that wasn't flesh, but still beat. You remember me, the voice said. It wasn't coming from the machine, it was coming from within her. She froze. What are you? The part of you they buried? The mind they erased to make room for obedience. The light around her rippled. The floor trembled as the machine stirred, awakening for the first time in centuries. She stumbled back, terrified and entranced all at once. You led them once, the voice continued. You fought to free them from the false perfection above. But when the rebellion failed, they didn't kill you. They repurposed you, turned you into their symbol of grace, their perfect lady. Her chest tightened. The pieces were finally falling into place. Every vision, every dream, every haunting reflection. The mirror hadn't been showing her another person. It had been showing herself, the worker, the leader, the forgotten truth. She could see it now. The riots in the lower hives, the banners rising against the light, her voice carrying through the smoke. She remembered her fall. The light consuming her and waking up in a palace, a new name, a new life. With no trace of the woman she had been, she wasn't chosen by the Empire. She was made by it. Casara staggered forward, her voice trembling. If that's true, then why bring me back now? The machine's pulse slowed. The voice inside her softened. Because the lie is breaking. The towers above are cracking, and they need their illusion to hold. You were the first to question it. You can be the last to end it. She shook her head. I don't know how. You already do. A low rumble filled the chamber. The walls shuddered, the light flaring brighter. Through the smoke, she saw others emerging. Figures in tattered robes and masks, workers and priests alike, drawn by the awakening. Their eyes reflected the same red glow now burning in hers. They fell to their knees, not in worship, but in recognition. Lady Casara. One whispered. No, she said quietly, her voice steady. Not anymore. The machine stirred again, cables tightening like tendons. Its voice resonated through every surface. The world above will hear the truth once more. Casara turned to the crowd. The air was alive with heat, dust and something more, a hope, a dangerous kind of hope. I was made to forget, she said, her voice echoing across the chamber. But memory is a machine too. It never truly dies. It just waits to be restarted. She reached out, placing her hand on the machine's heart. Energy surged through her. Pain, light, sound, every lost moment burning back into existence. The room shook. Sparks rained like fire. Somewhere far above, alarms began to scream. The false light of perfection trembled. Casara's eyes blazed red as she whispered, for every name they erased, for every voice they silenced. Let them remember. The machine roared to life. A shockwave tore through the hive. Not an explosion of fire, but of memory. Visions of truth flooding the towers, breaking the illusions that held the world together. For the first time in centuries, the people of the upper spires looked into their mirrors and didn't recognize the faces staring back. And in that single moment, Lady Casara ceased to exist. The symbol of perfection was gone, replaced by something older, truer, unstoppable. Not a saint, not a noble, but the spark of remembrance itself. The red light faded, leaving only the whisper of the machine in the dark. Nothing perfect lasts forever.